And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. This is Sunday Encounters. Unfortunately, we lost our guest, Doug. His mother-in-law passed away. So thoughts and prayers going out to him and his family. But pretty sure we'll be able to get him back next week, or if we're not booked already, we'll get him on sometime. Because he's got some really good stories to tell. Some stuff that happened to him. I talked to him on the phone for a good hour, and he's very detailed in what happened, and he got to look at it. The thing about it to me was he kept saying whatever it was, and I was like, you know what it is, Doug. You know it's a Bigfoot, and he's like, yeah, I know. I just people. The more people I talk to, I just get ridiculed. So you don't have to worry about that with us. You're not ever going to experience any kind of ridicule here at Bigfoot Odyssey. And if anybody even tries, we've got the best moderators on YouTube to take you out. So it's as simple as that. When we, the way we do this, it's never an argument or a discussion whether Bigfoot exists or these creatures, whatever you want to call them, Sasquatch, Bush Indians, whatever. They exist. And that's the angle we always approach this from. So what I did do is get some stories together, some viewer submitted stories, and I would suggest doing that for people that if you don't want to come on, if you've had an experience, it doesn't matter how insignificant you think it is, it matters. Write it down, send it in, and when we can, situations like this, we'll read them. So I got 3 pretty good ones here. I was there for a little while. I left about the last 15 minutes of Anything Goes on your channel, Hidden Existence. So yeah. Pretty cool discussions going on there.
Yeah, food. At this time of night, it's not good, but yeah, it's interesting. It's good.
Well, it's good to see. Good to see everybody in. I think most of you are, a lot of you are coming over from Hidden Existence. So we're gonna get into these stories here, and we might have a little bit of back and forth, Danielle and myself, about them. You got anything you want to announce before we get started?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay.
I've got a guy who wrote to me. And he had quite an encounter, and he's put at the bottom of it, probably not interesting enough for you to, have on your show. And it was like, no, let's talk. It's not about, it doesn't have to be fantastic, killer encounter. It doesn't matter how small it is. If you think you've seen something and you want to talk about it, come and talk about it. And you don't have to come on screen and, like Kerry says, we can read it out, or hope you'll feel comfortable enough to come on with us, because that's the kind of place we've made it, and we hope that it comes that way across to people.
I think it does. I think it does. I've started to talk to a lot more people that are interested in doing it, that will come on. It takes a lot of courage to come out here live, because it's live. You make a mistake, and I think that's the difference. I was talking to Wes Germer about this. The difference is whenever you go on with Wes, it just feels like you and him because it's recorded. Here, you take questions from the chat. You can see the chat. There are people there watching you now. So it's a little bit different, and I think that's probably why we don't get that many people that are. I mean, we get a few, but I'm usually looking for someone and convincing them that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And Wes does send us some too. So.
And we talk to them before they come on. Talk to a lot of people before they even come on to the show.
Yeah.
So you don't just come straight on and we expect you to say everything. Like I say, you don't even have to come on. I just want to go back up a notice, because Katie G went back to the spot. Yeah. 39 years. Wow. How did that feel?
I know.
I'm sure she'll let us know.
Can't imagine. I've got a story in here. That's why the title reads like it does. I'll never go back in the woods again. And it was, and I actually talked to this lady on the phone. It's her son. He didn't want to talk about it, so she wrote it and sent it to me. And it's going to be the last one on here. But it really hit home with me, and knowing the way he felt and feels to this day. And this happened in the 90s. So I think he's my age too. So. All right. Well, are you ready? Let's do this first one here. This is Colorado, San Miguel County. I was camping in Colorado with a friend. We had gone up there to see a band play and arrived there a day before the show started. So we got a campsite about 1 hour away from Telluride. I hope I say these things right. I know I'm not. Telluride, Colorado, because all the hotels and in and around there had no vacancy signs. We were sitting on the block on the back. I'm very unpracticed at this. We were sitting on the back of my car, and I guess around 8:30 p.m. on July the 1st. This campground was pretty big, and it was just in a big field off the side of the road with the showers and stuff in a building near the middle of the campground. This was the only building at this campsite. It had the main office in the front of it. There were only about 4 other groups staying there that night. We were sitting on the back of my car just talking about the show the night before and talking about how good the next show would be. As we were talking, we heard a strange howling noise, like nothing I'd ever heard before. I don't know how to explain it, because the vocalization was coming from the tree line about 200 yards away from where we were. We didn't really think anything of it for the moment, because even though we didn't think that it sounded normal, we were in a different state than where our home was, and thought maybe they had different types of animals around there, like different kinds of mountain lions or bears. So we kept talking, and then we heard it a little closer. It was then we really thought this was weird. We stopped talking and stared in the direction the noise came from, although the light was not good in that direction. After about 5 minutes, we both saw a dark figure standing near the tree line facing our direction. It stood maybe 8 feet tall. We couldn't really tell from where we were, but when we went there the next morning, as I tell you later, I made a mental mark on the tree where his head was, and he may have even been slightly slouched over and actually taller. The thing was a dark color from what I could see, and it stood very upright. Its arms hung down straight, almost to its knees. I could not see any detailed features because of the distance, but I know for a fact that it was not a bear or anything that I'd ever seen or even heard about. There was a wind blowing toward our direction, and there was a smell that was very disturbing. The smell was like rotten eggs and skunk combined. Excuse me. Yeah, that's not good. The thing stayed in that position until we got into my car, and we were going to drive closer to it, probably about 50 feet. They put a period after the FT. 50 feet from it, because we felt it couldn't hurt us in my car. If it tried to come in the car or ran towards it, I could have just ran over it. I have a Montero 4x4 vehicle. Now, a Montero is a Mitsubishi. It's a mid-size SUV, size of a 4Runner, maybe. 8-foot Sasquatch would probably just flip that thing over. Anyway. But as soon as we turned the car around and flipped the headlights on, the creature started at a fast walk across the field, staying close to the tree line, and then went back into the woods. While he was moving, we drove toward the creature at a fast speed to see better or get a closer look at it. We decided not to go all the way to the tree line in our car, as we might get in trouble. So we drove back to the tent and went to bed, although we had quite a bit of trouble and were very nervous, thinking that since he saw us in the car, that he might come to our campsite, but nothing happened. The next morning, we woke up early, I would say 8 o'clock. Yeah, that's not really early. Put on clothing and headed to where he stood. When we got to it, we saw massive human-like footprints. The footprint was 16 inches long and 5 inches wide. The impression was pushed in the ground, I would say at least an inch and a half. It was not muddy either. The ground was firm and dry. Well, that's all I have. Hopefully this might help your research. I do believe that we saw a Bigfoot. I never believed in this stuff until it happened. And when I go back to Telluride next July, I will stay in the site again and hopefully be able to get a picture of this thing if it's even still around. Yeah, I mean, that's sorry, hang on.
Disappeared. It's interesting, you know, the when they find the tracks. I just wonder how they managed to make such an impression.
Wait.
And yeah, no, wait, but you think you'd see them all over the place. So there's like, it's not just when they're walking. It feels like there's something else going on. I mean, what about elephants? Are they leaving huge tracks all over the place all of the time? Does it not depend what ground they're on? If that ground's compacted enough, why would they be able to? Are they like jumping down at these at some of these tracks?
Could be that. Could be
into them to
could
create.
Be a taking off point for a jump. Even, I mean, you got to figure that's going to be pressure going down. Me personally, I think these creatures go out of their way not to leave signs like that. I mean, it only makes sense. A creature that's apparently predisposed to hiding, not being discovered, not going to leave a bunch of sign around, or at least try not to.
There's going to be a lot of tracks around if they were making that sort of indent all the time. So
yeah, you're right. You'd think.
Yeah,
exactly that.
So that's just an interesting point. I think there's something going on there maybe when you see those really deep ones. So, but yeah, he knows what he saw, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 8 feet tall, dark, walking upright. What else is it? In Colorado, especially. All right. This next one, Max Power. I just caught that.
Where is it at?
I don't know.
Landing point?
No, it was before that. He was laughing at my editorial comments in between. Sorry. I tend to do that, as someone says they go after it. I got to stop and make a comment about that because you're out of your mind. All right, let me get.
I found something the day I wanted to send you and go, this is you. I'm going to find it and send you it. Okay. It's funny.
Great.
Sorry.
I don't give enough crap. This one here, this is from Tammy. And that's all she put. I try to keep, people's last names and all that, general locations. If it's their home, obviously we won't say where it is. So if you do write in and you happen to put your full name and where you live and all that, you got to let us know that you don't mind that stuff being put out there, because we're not going to do it otherwise. All right. And I'm sorry I don't read any better. I don't, on the shutter, I could always edit all the little mess ups out. It was the summer of 1980. I was 16 and had recently moved to Kansas from Eastern Ohio. I had made a good friend from school pretty quickly, and we were in town together. She dropped me off at home just before dark. My mom, brother, and stepdad were gone. We lived in an old mobile home, and several of the homes that were on that side of the street were mobile homes. We had an old couch outside, so I sat on it, waiting for them to get home from wherever they had been. Behind our mobile home was an old barbed wire fence. We lived at the corner of this fence. The back of our trailer was about 8 feet from it, from what I recall. For some reason, I don't know if something caught my peripheral vision or if I felt like I was being watched, but I remember getting up and walking to the fence line. There were 2 small trees there that I forgot about until I Google Earthed it recently, but I saw something crawling away quite fast. I recall seeing a body like a person's, kind of, but covered in hair, about medium length. The color was in spots or bumps randomly. I don't know what that means. One color was in spots or bumps randomly. They were round and darker colored, like dark brown or black even. I guess she's saying spots here.
Mm.
The hair on its head was definitely longer, like a dark blondish color and matted. I saw a nose, but it was thicker and not a long snout. It was shorter and barely stuck out from its hair. I saw it from an angle, very briefly, and never saw eyes or a face. Excuse me.
Mm.
Lost my place here. The creepy part was I never saw elbows, feet, paws, knees. It was crawling in the grass so quickly and effortlessly, away from me, up in the empty field toward the barn. It reminded me of a spider. How many times have we heard that? I never saw ears that I recall, and definitely did not see a tail. When my family got home, I was in the road, upset and scared. Luckily, they got home a short time later. I told my mom what I saw, and she was a good drawer. She drew it. I wish that I had that drawing. Yeah, me too. But when we really looked at it, it was scary to think of what it could be because we didn't know. My stepdad was a drinker. He didn't believe me. What him being a drinker really matters. We told our mom's best friend and no one else. She lived around the corner and a few houses down. She later did tell us she was washing dishes. Her kitchen window faces that same field inside the fence, and saw two red eyes looking at her. It scared her pretty bad. So this story gets crazier. We got hit with rocks on our trailer, the backside and the roof at first. I recall it sounding like handfuls of rocks, big, small, all sizes. It started happening after I saw that thing. Guessing I would say few weeks later, not sure. It started happening more and more frequently, even hitting the neighbors' trailers. We were all terrified. The guy next door ran over to check on us one night. He covered his head with a piece of plywood and ran to our house. We never saw anything. My little brother's room was at the end of the trailer, close to the fence line. He ran out of his room one night because he heard noises, scratching and heavy breathing or growling. I can't recall exactly, and he doesn't like discussing it. So we came in the living room and the harassment continued. It sounded like whatever it was trying to get in from the vents underneath. Rocks hit our front window. I looked out to the left. Oh, sorry.
I didn't realize you were reading off your phone.
I am. Daniela just sent me a picture and it
Sorry
totally
about that.
completely messed up everything. I forgot to turn my stupid volume down anyway.
Oh, well, it's live.
It is. No net. I looked out to the left. My mom got on the left side of me and screamed, "Tammy, get down." She said there was a shadow of something standing and leaning in, looking at us. Ugh. Creepy. The guy next door was a friend of the local sheriff. He called him and he came up in his sheriff's car, went inside the fence through a gate where there were no trees around except the two small ones by the corner of the fence and maybe one more off in the distance. He had his light beaming all around across the grass and at the barn, etc. Then, boom, a rock hit his car. Then a few more. He drove in a little further and moved his light around. Nothing. No one. He said not to mention this to anyone, but to call it if it continued. See, that's a problem. This is the sheriff. He's got confirmation that something's happening here. And these people, this girl says she sees this thing. The rocks are hitting. Rocks hit his vehicle. A professional.
I know.
Should make a report. Hello? Don't tell anybody. Okay, sheriff. See ya. But call me if it continues. Yeah, I'll come out and we'll put it all under the rug. My little brother had a friend across the street that he talked to now and then, so we asked if anyone in the neighborhood or town would throw rocks at our trailers or harass us. He didn't. One neighbor who later moved in next to us after one guy moved was so scared after something jiggled her doorknob and rocks hit our house that she said she called the FBI. A few days later, maybe a week or two, she upped and moved away. Let's see.
Wow.
Getting smarter and smarter around there. During all of this, one night, some kids from school that I barely knew drove up towards the nursing home, turned around, and came back. They stopped at my mom's friend's house where we were, and the boy got out. He said they drove up to the nursing home through the circle drive, and their lights hit that barn. He said there were things, not people, tall things, standing. Some were sitting, looking back at them. The girl was frozen in terror. So he quickly drove her car down to my mom's friend's house and told us, trying to calm her down. We moved back to Ohio a few months later, and I now live in West Central Arkansas. I am a hobby photographer and love to chase and photograph waterfalls, ride dirt roads, etc. But honestly, Bigfoot and the unknown is always on my mind. I am scared of the dark at 56, and I always lock my doors, home and vehicle. Camping is not for me, especially in a tent in the Ozark Mountains. And I have not been to Kansas since then. I recently Googled that block and saw the fence, the field, but the trailers are now gone. It's all modern homes. I just wonder if it has happened since 1980. Seeing that area again online made me feel panicky and afraid. Now, this is what kind of angers me. My husband and friends laugh when I tell them what I went through, but I don't care. I know I saw something. I know it harassed us, and it scared us all to the point of us all sleeping in one room, the living room of the trailer, together, with lots of sleepless nights. Many times my mom, me, and my stepdad would try to take turns listening so my little brother could sleep, just in case it found a way in. There were cattle mutilations in the area. Others later saw a few creatures one night by that barn. I feel anxiety just thinking about it. My husband gets so mad at me when I mention Bigfoot or if I'm watching Bigfoot videos on YouTube. He basically calls me a liar, and it's hurtful because I know what I saw and it was not normal. It's good to just discuss it with someone who might listen. Tammy, Dover, Arkansas. Yeah. I mean, she kind of saw something. Is throwing rocks at him. And I just wonder if it's not these creatures, once they feel like they've been busted, they just don't care anymore. And they just they're upset and angry and start throwing rocks. What happened with the GoPros? As soon as they started putting up cameras, rocks started hitting the house. And I've heard it so many times. You know, Rick Wells, he put his cameras up and they come up and slap the side of the house. So I guess that putting cameras up, I guess, is a double-edged sword. I don't know.
Yeah, you just wonder how far they'll go, don't you? I mean, throwing stuff at the house.
Well, to me, the scariest thing is I think they will hurt people, and I think they have. But who's living to tell about that? You know, we heard the story, the hunter down in Florida that was walking out late in the afternoon. It was almost dark. He's walking out down this levee, woods are to his right, and he hears something, sounds like a person crying. And he's got his hunting gear on. He's got overalls with the straps, and it's got a pocket in the front. And then he's all camoed out, and he's probably 50 feet from his truck. He said this thing jumped out of the woods, hit him, knocked him down, got on top of him, screaming in his face and hitting the ground by his head like this. It wasn't hitting him,
right?
But it was hitting the ground. And he didn't do a thing. He's just coming out. Well, he had a .22 pistol right here in his pocket. So he manages to get the pistol, and he puts it in this thing's face. And he said, as soon as I did, the eyes got real big, like he was surprised, and he shot. and he shot it in the head.
Right.
22. I'm sure it glanced off or grazed or whatever. So the thing jumps off, runs in the woods, not far, but he says as he's running to his truck, he can hear it wailing, like it's, feeling sorry for itself, type of deal. But he said it was a 6-foot tall chimpanzee looking thing,
Wow.
black. So they that's skunk ape. It's Bigfoot. It's all the same thing as far as I'm concerned. They'll attack you.
The bullet must have hurt him.
I'm sure it did hurt, but obviously didn't kill it. It's a 22, and I'm sure their skulls are that thick.
Right.
I think maybe 45 would have probably done the better.
Wow.
Let's
That's
see. Can you guys talk about the different faces in the interviews? It would help a lot. I'm not sure what faces, Lewis, you're talking about.
Don't mean the faces on the background, does he?
Yeah, well, those are computer generated. Those are not real. But, as far as what I've seen, pretty close. I mean, take some hair off the face. It's dead on, as far as I'm concerned. I've only got one more. I'm kind of burning through. I do have to be at work in 35 minutes, so we'll take questions from the chat after this. This last one's longer. And I just talked to this lady today. She sent this in just a few days ago, and her son, she said it's as much as I could get out of him, but it's pretty detailed for as much as she could get from him. Like I said, it's longer, and I'll try to slow down, and I'll probably get to reading too fast. Oh. All right. Carrie, I just started looking at your website and podcasts and just watched the one where you tell your story. It reminded me of our son's face-to-face encounter that he had in the, I'm going to butcher this, Kaibab, Kaibab National Forest on the north rim of the Grand Canyon in the late 90s. Our son is totally traumatized and won't talk about it or go in any woods to this day. He's never hunted since. I'm glad you're talking about these creatures and sharing experiences because people need to be aware of it. Our son said he thought he wasn't going to make it out of there alive. Know that feeling. He was an avid hunter, fisherman, and all-around sports nut. Had a run-in with Bigfoot in the late 90s. I'll tell you what I know about it, how it's adversely affected him, and vouch for his complete honesty. We're from central Wisconsin. My husband's family is completely nuts about hunting, fishing, outdoors, camping, etc. He was raised to be involved with all that stuff. He's also honest, no nonsense, not a drinker or BS type storyteller. He got a Bachelor of Science, double major in computer science and law enforcement administration. He did an internship and summer work in law enforcement. So he has that background in observation and investigation. He works in computer science and data security now. After he got married, they moved to the Phoenix area to be by her family. That always how it is. The guy has to move away to wherever the girl's mom is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Happened to me.
Oh.
Yeah. Linda won't move to Texas now because she doesn't want to be far from her mother, 77 years old. I understand. And I love her mother. You know, as far as a mother-in-law goes, couldn't ask for one better. I think she likes me more than she does Linda anyway. So. Anyway. So at first, we heard about him fishing there and his hunting in northern Arizona. He was excited about the huge, never-ending wooded areas there. Then, after a couple of years, he completely stopped hunting, didn't talk about it, and he completely focused on fishing. He made a couple of offhanded comments every now and then about sticking with fishing because he wasn't the prey. and that he didn't want to hunt there because he didn't want to be the prey. We knew something happened to change him, but he wouldn't talk about it. We also noticed that he started carrying a gun when he camped. Since Arizona allows handguns, we didn't think much of it. Around 2005 or so, we were visiting him and were alone with him in his family room. His wife and daughters were outside or away. He didn't want to scare them by telling them anything about Bigfoot. He went to a website with Bigfoot calls and asked us what kind of animal makes those sounds. Then he and my husband went back and forth trying to eliminate or identify familiar animal calls. He said he never paid any attention to anything about Bigfoot until he went hunting in the Kaibab. I hope I say that right. He was visibly shaken, white as a ghost, and almost shaking just recalling it. He said his experience totally changed his life. He said, "Dad, you always taught me not to be afraid of the woods, to respect it, but we're in charge. So I thought I was the king of the jungle. Been there too. Here I am, an adult, and I'm scared of the woods. I've gone from being a little kid, scared of the woods, to thinking I'm the king of the jungle, now being afraid to go in the woods." He said, "I saw face to face a massive, hairy monkey man monster. I looked right at something that's not supposed to be real, but it is real. I pressed him. How far away? What did it look like?" He said, "Ma, it was like right there to my fence in the backyard." So he was describing maybe a couple of 100 feet. So here's what he told us. He and a buddy had gone bow hunting for deer in the fall of the north rim of the Grand Canyon in the Kaibab Forest. They both had their pickups, tents, and ATVs. They were in the remote, higher elevations on a dirt mountain road. They set up their tents and built a fire. Then they both went in the woods for a while. They noticed odd bent over twisted trees, scratches, and log formations. They both started noticing sounds in the woods like something was trailing them and rocks were coming in at them like they were being thrown. They went back to their tents, but the noises and rock throwing continued. My son's buddy said it was too creepy there, and so he picked up his tent and gear and left while there was still daylight in order to get down the trail back off the mountain terrain. Our son figured he's king of the jungle, decided that since he got a lottery deer permits and had a few days off, he wanted to keep hunting. So he stayed in his tent by himself that night. He said he didn't sleep that well because he kept hearing noises, rocks, and something actually rubbing against his tent. But he came there to hunt. So at the crack of dawn, he gets on his ATV and drives back into the deep woods where he parked the ATV and then started hunting on foot with his bow. Again, he saw the twisted trees, brush structures, and tree scratches. As he walked around doing his hunting, he became more and more aware that something was trailing him. He said he went through a mental checklist of what it could be, such as if a bear or a cougar was stalking him, he reasoned he probably wouldn't hear it so plainly. Then he wondered if a wounded animal was stalking him, which could have been why it was making tracking noises. He said he finally got mad and decided to figure out what he was dealing with. With the hilly, mountainous, woodsy terrain, there are canyons and gullies. So he decided to drop down and double behind whatever was stalking him. He quietly sneaked down behind some rocks, then began to sneak up on whatever was there. He started noticing an awful, strong, musty, stinky, wet, dirty dog smell. Well, that's a lot of adjectives. He slowly... It was. I'm sorry, Miss Sally.
Okay.
When he got through some terrain there, he saw a huge, massive monkey man without a tail crouched down looking the other way. He assumed it was looking for where he was. He said he was so petrified he wanted to run and scream. Being petrified and responding by habit or fear, he aimed the bow and arrow at it. The creature then saw him. He said it stood up and let out a chest-rattling growl. So there he was, with his small bow and arrow pointed at it, facing it, frozen in fear. He said it had a human-looking face. He said, "I'm not looking at this." He said, "I'm looking at this massive monster that doesn't exist. I don't have a permit. My bow and arrow probably wouldn't even nick it. This 9-foot monster could charge me and break me like a stick." He said he was transfixed in terror as they faced each other. Then he said he decided he had to ease away and not scream or run like prey. He backed off with the bow and arrow, then backed up as fast and as smoothly as he possibly could. Then he tried to watch it without staring as he tried to walk back and away to his ATV. He said the thing shadowed him all the way, making noises, crashing trees, and ducking behind brush. When he got to the ATV, he jumped in and drove back up to his camp. By this time, it was approaching dusk, and so he felt he couldn't get out of there on the remote road at night, but he also didn't feel safe staying in the tent. No kidding. So he got in his truck to wait for dawn. He said throughout the night, he could hear noises, hear stuff thrown at his truck, and felt that something was brushing against the truck every now and then. Whenever he noticed anything, he laid on the panic horn. He laid on the panic horn. He said he was so scared he didn't think he would survive the night. At the crack of dawn, he got out of the truck just long enough to grab his stuff, throw it in the bed, and get himself out of there. He's never gone back. He said he's got no interest in deer hunting in those woods again because it's one thing to go there when you're king of the jungle, but not if you're the prey, where massive monsters can break you like a twig. Wow. I mean,
It's the saddest part, isn't it? Is when it takes away.
yeah,
Just going out into nature.
it just kind of depends. I probably would have thought the same thing about myself. Sad that I lost my sanctuary. I just can't go in the woods anymore. But silver lining is what's come out of it. I've had a lot of extreme things happen to me, good and bad, through my entire life. It just seems to be that way. It's never anything minor. It's always something major. Either it's really good or it's really bad. And it's all how you deal with it, what you turn it into. That's a choice, what you do with it.
Yeah. A bit harder when you're living out in the woods, I guess, or where hunting is essential to you as well, for food. Maybe some people just have to get on and do it, who've experienced these, creatures. And others who just do hunting as a choice, as something to do, will just go, no, sod it. I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, people are so different. You've got people like me and this guy who are not going back for various reasons. There's no reason for me to go hunting again. I can't hunt like I did before, looking behind every bush, see where this thing is. I can't concentrate on what I'm going to be there for, so I can understand that. And if it's aggressive towards you, like it was him, like it was me, then you know that there is a level of tolerance that you can breach with these creatures. Obviously. And as big as they are, apparently they don't want to hurt us. Or else I think we do hear about people disappearing. And maybe those are the people that shoot these creatures and are try hurting them. But I think, like him, if you're trying to get away, like me trying to get away, just get out of there, I think they're going to let you, for the most part.
People go missing all over the world, though, don't they, as well?
Yeah.
So it could be any reason.
But see, these days, just to go missing without a trace, with the heat vision we've got, the microwave technology, cadaver dogs, it's hard to just disappear. And a lot of these people seem to just disappear. The place we went down to Florida, about 10 people go missing in that place every year.
Wow.
It's full of alligators, though. So.
Well, there is that as well. Katie G says, part of my work through therapy has been to write down what my encounter and how I dealt with it deprived me of, things I enjoyed doing or might have wanted to do. It's a surprising list.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways I think you can deal with it, and whatever works for you. You know, when I did the thing with Barb Charlton, and we talked about this little spot right here, when that washed over feeling would come, it just something for me to focus on and tap right here, like acupuncture without the needle. But it seemed to work. You know, nothing. I don't think anything is going to work fully. You know, because that it's always going to be there. But you can, like me, I could be fine in my head. I know nothing's going to happen to me if I go in the woods. Nothing's going to attack me. But if that doesn't matter, it's my body's going to react like it's happening now. Eventually, it just happened every single time. So what I did, especially preparing for the 168, is I would go the woods in the backyard. We're on the edge of 25,000 acres, and I heard a tree knock back there. So I was already aware that this thing could be there. I would just go in about 10 feet, hang out for a little bit until I just felt like I wasn't comfortable, and I went back in the house. Next time I would go a little bit further. And I did that for a couple of weeks during COVID. And seemed to work. The very first day we were down there for 168, I can remember, and somebody even told me they saw this. When we were getting ready to go out, noon, midday, I was trying to put batteries in my camera and my hands were shaking. Not bad, but I'm normally pretty, I'm not shaky person, but they were then. Once we got out there, everything was fine. So
the thought, isn't it, as well? Just the thought of what might happen is enough to, you know, create something. It sounds a little bit like OCD, what people go through. Like you're saying, you know, nothing's going to hurt you out there, but it's still that feeling. It's like some people who won't drink out of certain cups or stuff because they're frightened of something which isn't going to happen, but it's what the feeling that it gives you, the fear of what the unknown, I guess, or even though you know there's something out there, but the likelihood is that you probably won't see one again. I mean, I'm saying that, I don't know, but it's the chance that you probably won't see one again.
That's true. That is true. But you begin to think, is there something about me? Is there something about certain people that these creatures are just drawn to? You know, am I going to see it again? I don't really care to. I don't care to research Bigfoot. You know, I'm all about making the films, and that was the whole deal with 168. I wasn't researching, but I was there with them while they were doing it. But I had a focus, and I was thinking about how I wanted it all to look and be presented. And it's coming along. Just letting everybody know it's going to be a while. The way I've been working, and having some uploading issues, but I'm working it out, and it's going to be a good story. We got some really good evidence, I think. You guys are going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be 3 parts, at least 3. So I got the intros done and all that, but getting the story put together and having to go through, it wasn't saved exactly the way I wanted it to. David did a really good job, but it's not labeled to where I know exactly what everything is. So I think it was all a stepping stone.
It's a good experience, isn't it? Next time.
It was a good learning experience, and for the next one we'll be a heck of a lot more prepared. So all right. Well, we got some questions. We got about 10 minutes.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Lisa. Have you heard anyone describe the smell of Bigfoot as sulfur-like?
Several times. Sulfur, I can tell you what I smelled was very concentrated urine smell, and like a dish rag that's gotten stale. Very musty, a musty, stale urine smell. I didn't smell anything. It smelled like sulfur. And I understand the view on the demonic as far as that's concerned. I'm not saying these creatures are not. From my experience, they're a natural creature. Whether it's some kind of incipient species, something new, just around a few thousand years, hybrid, whatever. But hybrid of what? I guess that would be the question. If it is, what was around 15,000 years ago that we know about Neanderthals and us? And if it's a hybrid of that, then something else has to be going on here. National Academy of Sciences, whoever, has got to have Neanderthal DNA taken, real Neanderthal DNA taken out of GenBank, and then something else put in its place, being called Neanderthal DNA. Or else, when people do send in these blood samples, it would be coming back human Neanderthal. So if that's true, that has to be happening on the back end, just to keep it out of public consumption. I mean, there are Neanderthal hybrids. Most all Europeans have about 2% Neanderthal DNA. I think just about everybody in the world, except for Africans, have Neanderthal DNA. Some more than others. You can tell it. I mean, I'm mostly Native American and Norwegian. You know, all my family are Vikings, so I've got hairy arms, and I don't have a hairy back, but not yet anyway. I'm getting hairy ears though. That's disturbing. Yeah.
Oh dear.
Kind of disturbing.
Yeah, just get them waxed and then pulled out. There was a couple of questions here. Where was it at? Does the odor cause the fear or the seeing?
I think, James, any of it could trigger something in you. I think there's a big difference in believing, and we say this a lot, belief is a very powerful inception. Being convinced and actually not having the luxury to do any of those and seeing the thing. So I think if you saw it before and you're in the woods, a stick break is probably going to affect you more than if you had never experienced it at all, obviously. So I think whatever experience you've had with it before, if that smell hits you, yes, I think it's going to affect you. You're going to know they're close. Drop my phone.
Oh. Hello, I'm PC Gaming. Welcome to the Bigfoot Odyssey family. Thanks for joining.
Let's make that announcement right quick. We're doing a members only show whenever I get home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going home next Sunday. I got one more week out here, and it's going to be a special show. Wes Germer is going to be our guest, and it's for members only. So, and we're going to be giving away the 168-hour T-shirts and the Bigfoot Odyssey hats. Those are going to be for members only. And the one we're doing after that, Vic Cundiff is going to be on with us, right?
We're going to have Vic Cundiff on as well, yeah.
King Dog Man himself.
Yeah, I can't wait. We were on with him actually the other night, weren't we? But
yeah,
we couldn't hear him, and
his volume was not great.
But I was like excited just to be sat next to him.
He's got such a distinctive voice. You know, he's one of those guys. If you've ever heard him, you know who he is. When you hear that voice, you know it's him. No one else sounds like Vic Cundiff, but you know.
And he's a nice guy as well. We had a nice chat before the show started, so I look forward to talking to him. Oh, Max Powers.
Yes, welcome, Max.
Welcome, Max.
Thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining. All you that have joined. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you very much. That's Wes Germer has a distinctive voice and his mannerism.
Definitely, yeah.
We talk on the phone, it's the same thing. And he's if you want to call Vic Cundiff, the king of Dogman, Wes Germer is the master of advice. He is always giving me advice. Of course, I do ask for his advice sometimes. I'll message him and ask for it, but he's always got an answer for you. I think he's been doing this since 2012, so he's heard it all. And researchers, he don't like researchers.
He doesn't.
No,
he doesn't. I think he's changed his view on them. From I listened to an old episode where he sounds much younger. Obviously, his voice is a bit higher, not higher, but a bit fresher.
Not all researchers.
Not all researchers, but he was he's changed. Not changed, but I can see how he's evolved. It was a very early. It was in the 50s or something, so it was very early days.
Yeah,
you can just see how he's evolved, so it's good.
Well, we're going to have a good discussion with him. So you members bring your questions for Wes. It's going to be a good show.
Hi, Patrick.
Patrick Noble. So I thought he was a member already.
Well, he's now. Martin asked you, Kerry, do you think they live underground?
Makes sense to me, Martin. It certainly does. The way they disappear.
Could they be underground where you were? Where you were hunting? What was there? Caves or tunnels?
No. But I mean, you think if they live underground, it's not going to be where, people are going to frequent. I think you could find a heavily brushed area where nobody's ever going to go. And maybe there's a hole they get in. Who knows? From what we believe about these creatures, they're very powerful. I'm sure digging out, especially if there were 2 or 3 doing it, wouldn't take much time. Now, I remember finding a dugout place on the backside of a dam when I was fishing one time. And this was a pretty remote lake. It's a big pond. But hardly anybody ever went over where the dam was. And I was in a boat and I pulled up there and got off and was walking down the dam. It was thick and there was things all over. And I just got around the edge and I could see straight down. And it looked like it was dug out. There were bushes growing in there. So I went down and looked, and it was a 30-foot wide place. Wow. And it went down, and it looked like it went under the pond a little bit, but I don't know how deep it went. I didn't go in it. I mean, obviously there's no telling what was in there, probably full of boogers. But man, I was 19, 20 years old. That was a long time ago.
Wow.
So I have found at least one dugout place. Had to have been dug out. There's nothing else. Water's not going to do that.
That's interesting. Joe Pass. Yeah.
Welcome,
thank you,
Joe. Welcome to all you members. Thank y'all so much.
I'm Martin. Mark Dantzler.
Mark Dantzler.
Dantzler, yeah. Thank you. But we're going to have some great members-only shows every now and again with some really good guests. So I'm looking forward to the next couple anyway.
Yeah, we got some good stuff coming up. I see another question right here. Let me grab this one. Are owls any correlation to Bigfoot? I don't know. We hear a lot of things. That was Coco Denton. I distinctly remember camping out one night, 9-10 o'clock at night, and hearing what I thought was a guy trying to sound like an owl. It was just blatant. Who, breathy, just like that. More like, who. I thought it was somebody coming up. There's only one guy really knew where I was. I thought it was him. And he's coming up the trail there. So I yelled out, yeah, hey, I'm up here. Nobody ever came, never saw anything. It wasn't long after that I heard what I thought was a fox yip. That didn't sound right either. So they were surrounding me. They were there the whole time. It's creepy to think about to this day. But there's no doubt I was probably within 10 or 15 feet of them 1,000 times. Michael Ramsey, new member. We're getting a lot of new members tonight. Everybody wants to see Wes Germer.
Excellent.
and then Vic Cundiff after that.
Yep. Yeah. It's like little things come together when you think back as well. Oh, so you were talking about the owls, weren't you? I was focusing on the chat then. Sorry.
Oh no, that was all. I was done with it.
Yeah.
But we hear a lot of these things. I was just talking to dang, I talked to so many people, and I know he thought I was arguing with him. Claude Null, because we had mentioned the other night someone was talking about having 8 owls around them. Well, I went and looked. I had to go and do a little bit of looking into it. And barred owls, for the most part, are loners. They'll find a mate. Those mates are together for life, and they don't. You're not going to find 4 or 5 usually. There are exceptions to every norm, obviously. But when you hear someone talk about there being 8 barred owls, hoot owls, surrounding them, if you're not calling, if you're not sound like a female, because I couldn't find anything about that. If females court different males, maybe. But what will happen is owls from the same clutch will stay together for a while. But once they find their family, they're off on their own. So you hear an owl in the woods, you might hear another one way off, but I think they're pretty territorial. Those type of owls are, they're nocturnal, but you can see them in the daytime. Like I said, they're exceptions to every norm, and there are extreme variations of every norm. So, anecdotal evidence aside, what's normal is they're not going to be around together. So when people say these things about the owls, and when you do the sound analysis like Mark Newbell has, it's not the normal owl sound. There's something off about it. So maybe they do. Whether owls and Bigfoot are together, if that was your question, I don't know, but I think they mimic these things myself.
Yeah, definitely hear that, don't we? Thank you. Hi, Desert Barb, for joining. Got a
Barb?
right. Yeah.
Well, let's take one more.
There was one. Peter Birdsall, do Bigfoot intentional role in animal poop?
I don't know how anybody would know that.
They don't really smell of that, though, do they? No one's ever said it smelled of.
Well, I think I have heard maybe, but mostly it's garbage, garbage smell, skunky, musty, urine. But yeah, I think I've heard a really, I'm going to say it, a poopy smell.
Yeah.
For the kids.
Oh, yeah, be careful. Don't put the emoji up. Okay.
That's chocolate soft serve.
That's it. Sorry, yeah. Put it on your ice cream. We did reach out to him. I think a few times we have, haven't we?
Yeah. I got with his publicist once. He's just busy, and we're probably not big enough for him. So we've reached out to several of the guys, him and Survivor Man, Les Stroud. Yeah, got with his publicist too, and it's timing issues. At least that's what they're telling us. It's probably that there's not much we can do for them. So it definitely help us more than it would them. So.
Well, the thing is, end of the day, nobody knows anything more than anybody else knows anyway. They've maybe heard different stories or stuff like that, but honestly, there's so little out there in terms of real facts.
Matching anecdotes, I think, is our best evidence. Foot tracks, tree structures where there's other evidence found. It's just like, I think I just saw Mr. Hand ask me again, Martin Hand if I thought they migrate. I don't know how anybody would know that. Think about what it would take to know something like that if Sasquatch migrate. Now, are we talking about 100-mile or 50-mile area? I think that might be easier to determine rather than them going hundreds of miles, because you would have to see one. You'd have to know what that one looked like in an area. Then you'd have to see that same one somewhere else and know that that was him at a different time. Now, I hear people talk about this all the time. Well, they come through. This is the thing about these creatures. They're so good at staying away from us is we don't know when they're not there. You just can't know when they're not there. Just because you're not seeing sign, you're not hearing vocalizations, that doesn't mean they're not there. It just means you're not hearing and seeing those things. So
we need a long line of researchers a mile apart, don't we?
Yeah, that's what we need.
Really monitor what's going on there.
Beat that dead horse.
We are going to try and do that as soon as Doug's back to,
yes,
but we'll do that.
Yeah, Doug's going to be rescheduled for sure. He said next week if we don't have anybody that he would. But yeah, thoughts and prayers to him and his family. Lost his mother-in-law, and I can only imagine him having to comfort his wife. So we appreciate everybody showing up here tonight. Daniela, what you got next?
What have I got next? On Saturday, I've got Chad Alta coming on. Chad and Alta abduction. They've had a long history of interaction with all sorts of things. Alien, ET, out of world stuff.
Creepy.
They're coming on Saturday. They're really nice folks, and it's going to be very interesting to listen to them.
Awesome.
So
this Wednesday, Researcher Report, we got Tippa TV is going to be here with us.
Yeah.
So big shout out to Tippa TV. Go and subscribe to them on YouTube. And if you haven't, go check out and become a member of Hidden Existence also. All these links in the description. If you don't know what the description is or where it is, if you look just below the screen, especially if you're on your phone, look right there to the right. You'll see a little upside down V, or a V upside down triangle. You can hit that and our description will pop up, and all the links of everything in there. Our store where you can get Bigfoot Odyssey merchandise is in there, and which hardly anybody ever goes to. We don't really push it. Scott put that up there for us a little while back, and we appreciate everybody that does get a Bigfoot Odyssey t-shirt. But if you want a 168 hours t-shirt, you got to become a member. So that's exactly what we've done with that money, is went and bought $1,600 worth of t-shirts and hats to give away back to you guys. So
just want to say thanks to Mark Wilson for joining, Lois B, Bella, thank you, and Don C.
Don
C.
Well, I got to roll. Thanks everybody.
Me too.
Thanks all the new members for joining. We'll see you guys Wednesday, 7:00 p.m. Central with Tippa TV. Y'all have a good night.